It's already yelled, but we don't have a microphone. Can people hear me in the back?
Yes, yes.
Okay, my wife can hear me. If you don't mind, we have some seats up here. Please make yourself comfortable. We don't have a lengthy agenda tonight, but we have a very important one. My name is Mike Bleckley. I'm President and CEO of Bellwether Credit Union, but today I'm wearing my America's Credit Union Museum hat. I am fortunate enough to be the chairman of the board of the museum. And welcome, I guess, to the home of America's first credit union. I don't sit on the board alone. I'd like to just recognize some of my colleagues on the board. Ron Covey, why don't you guys just give us intimate group here, so just give a wave, Ron.
Come here, Mike.
Okay, his wife's right next to you. Michael Ray. Right here. Thank you, Michael. Dr. Patty Lenotte. Patty. Okay. Peter Lemire. Where's he? We don't stop on the phone. Oh, it's on the phone. Okay. His brother's covering for him. You got it? Thanks. Thank you very much. Jim Nussle. Jim. Dick Ensweiler. We have some retired. Can I retired? Okay. Retired. Dick Ensweiler. John Murphy from Maine. John. We got it. And Dan Egan, I have not seen yet. I know he's on his way. Here's Peter. Sorry about that, buddy. I called you out on the phone. And we have Ron Rio. So listen, I'm going to give them a hand. These are weird here. We're kicking, I guess we're just throwing dirt around literally just a few moments ago, on the CUNA Research Library and the Research Center and the Ensweiler Research Library. We're joined by, we look around the room here, we have industry officials, we have a bunch of general supporters, and we'll get to them in a little bit. But I want to make sure I say thank you. Stephanie will also say thank you. We wouldn't be here without your generosity. This building, if you've had a chance to walk around, you go on the first floor, 3 levels, 2 levels down from here, houses America's first credit union. We're Attorney Boisvin, Monsignor Heavey from the church next door, and Alphonse Desjardins, who was a legendary credit union pioneer, got together and figured out that the problems that the parishioners had and mill workers had those challenges could be met through the financial cooperative model. They encouraged thrift. They provided access to credit that the mill workers weren't able to get on the other side of the bridge, where essentially the mill owners and managers did their own thing, the banks took care of them. They didn't have an interest. From that modest but very important history, to today we are 6,000 credit unions, just over 6,000 credit unions. We serve, that's 109 years later, we serve 110 million members. We're as complex as any financial institution out there, and we're having a positive impact on the quality of life of people around the country. So, welcome. It's a wonderful place to bring to be. Credit unions are certainly more complex, but the core values that started, and I kept the name here because it wasn't cast of popularity when I looked at the history. The first one was St. Mary's Cooperative Credit Association, which then was translated in French, which became St. Mary's Bank. The core values that helped those 3 gentlemen create this industry are the same core values that we have today. People helping people, making a difference in people's lives. Our motivation is not profit. Our motivation is helping each other. And that motivation, a lot of people don't understand the difference. They see products, they see services, they see delivery channels that match up to for-profit institutions. It's our lack of not having a for-profit motivation that makes us different. And so somebody mentioned once before, I forget who said it, was it's the structure of our industry that certainly really makes a difference. We're volunteer-led, and we're having an impact that's set for over 109 years. Credit unions in New Hampshire and Manchester in particular, we've been pretty high profile. I think we started 109 years ago. There's several institutions that are still in town. We're still having an impact, and we're fortunate enough to have the mayor of Manchester join us today to say a few words. Mayor Ted Gatsas.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Great to have you here in Manchester, New Hampshire, for you folks that are from out of town. And you know, in Manchester, there are an awful lot of firsts. And this being the first credit union is incredible. I can remember many years ago when I was a realtor, and were looking for somebody that would give your client a loan, you came to St. Mary's. You could get it done. They were one of the first ones. And certainly, Mike, you should be applauded, because I can remember when this whole initiative started 3 years ago. I think we again had a little reception right here to talk about raising $3.5 million. Well, it's done, and not only are you making it the most expensive piece of real estate on the west side, it's probably more expensive than the bank just below us. But anyways, the museum I know is going to be enjoyed. A lot of folks are going to come in and visit. People are amazed when you tell them that the first credit union in the country was in Manchester, New Hampshire, and it was put together by a few people that had a vision. And that vision is something that grew, and people understood that credit unions were all about their members and not about the bottom line. So again, congratulations. I look forward to all that dirt that we threw today at a completion day. Thank you very much.
You can go to St. Mary's to get a loan, and we may, I don't think we're going to spend as much money at St. Mary's on that fancy building, it's a beautiful one. But they still make loans to generate revenue, and we want the generosity of our sponsors and supporters, so thank you for that. When I was preparing my notes, I said, every time I got to this point, I was going right into my pitch for looking for donations. So it's not like that, it's not my intention. Everybody here has been incredibly generous, and that generosity really in the history of this museum started with the Lemire family. Armin and Joanne Lemire took this building, knew the history of it, and donated it to St. Mary's. And Ron, we just met him a few moments ago, accepted that building. St. Mary's did on behalf of the industry. And they knew, I think right away, I don't want to speak for Ron, but they knew right away that it was bigger than just their credit union. That it was something special, and the group, we rallied some credit union leaders together, and they created the foundation. That foundation worked to make sure that everybody in the country knew what we had here and give them a chance to experience it. That building was donated in 1994. Today we're joined by two of the five sons, if I got it right, guys. Peter and David Lemire. Thanks, guys, because without what you did. So I'm not going to walk you through everything since 1994, because then you just give money, you leave, and you here and here. But in 2012, 2013, the board said, okay, we're here, we've had an impact, we feel like we can do more. We feel like there's a place for us in the industry, we need to define it and then tell people about it. And we decided that we made our choices, we decided to be three things. We wanted to be the keeper of the history and heritage for the credit union, we wanted to be a strategic planning destination for credit unions, and we wanted to essentially be the research center for credit unions. Anytime somebody wanted to know something about credit unions, they had one place to go, and we'd be able to get them what they needed. To accomplish this, we needed to raise some funds. A, to build the research center next door. I'm practicing on my pointing. There you go. The homes in different sides of the room. This way. Renovating and updating this building so we can have the most technology we can have upstairs here, so when credit union folks come in from around the country to plan, they have all the tools they need to be successful while they get back and visit their roots that started in 1908. And we also wanted to retire the debt that we had. We had a mortgage fund when we first converted this from literally a three-family home to a museum. We committed to raising, as the mayor said, $3.3 million to accomplish all the above. We knew we had to do two things right out of the gate to make it work. One is, after we articulated our vision, we needed to garner 100% support from the board members. I mean, you can't go out and tell your story unless you believe it. You need to show your dedication, and we were able to do that. 100% of the board. We contributed, the aggregate of that was $600,000, which is basically 20% of the campaign. The lead benefactor was our next plan. We could find one of those to make this thing work, and then we go out and tell the story to the rest of the industry. The board did step up in a big way. Service Credit Union took the mortgage and said we will retire the debt of the mortgage. And David Van Rosen, David, I know you saw, there you go. Thanks for that. It was a nice kickoff for us. We got some momentum on that. The main credit union in Synergy, they literally, I swear, John must have left our board meeting, went back, had a board meeting of his own, and they made a pledge almost immediately within a week of us kicking this thing off. We got to the 100% participation, the $600,000. And it was because of the passion that the board had of telling this story. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, whose passion you will pick up on in about the first 30 seconds of his comments, who's been helping us tell this story from around the country. A colleague, longtime colleague on the board, and now retired President and CEO of the Cornerstone League, Dick Ensweiler. Dick, come on.
Thank you, Mike. What an honor it is to be part of this fabulous day and knowing what it represents. My son Mike is here with me, and we toured the museum again, and it brings to mind how special this credit union movement is. It brings to mind the many people that dedicated so much of their lives and their energy and their vision to creating what we have today. It's inspiring. And then to see the pictures about what it's going to become, to hear the stories about what it's going to be able to do, this is really a magical time. As credit union people deal every day, as Mike said, with service channels and with balance sheet management and trying to comply with what the regulators all having to do, want them to do, I think they can get caught up every day in just being there and working and grinding. When that happens, we haven't, as the leaders of this credit union, done our job of reminding them that we are a very special credit union system. We're a credit union movement. We are the only group of the financial services world that doesn't have profit as a motivation, but rather serving the members, listening to their stories, finding a way to deal with them, service them with every interaction every day. What a special world, what a special place. And to reinstill that, there's a couple of programs available now, like credit union development educators and philosophy in action, some things that are really important as we try and remind people what we do. But the real reminder is this museum. As Mike said, if we can get boards of directors to have their strategic planning sessions here, if we can get management teams of organizations to come here and feel it and capture it and be reminded of why we're here and what we do, I think it'll take us to another level. So I'm just as excited as I can be to see this next evolution, if you will. This library, thanks to everybody that contributed to that. But the story I want to tell about the library is I was talking to Mike a little bit earlier, and he's especially excited about the library because he says he's never been in one before. Stephanie, you've got to teach him the due justice system and all that kind of stuff. And I think it'll be good. But anyway, I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes about the next year or two. Thanks.
Thanks, Dick. Great to hear from you. But it's important. He has a lot of credibility as the second member of St. Mary's Bank back in 1909. He knows what he's talking about. So when I left off, we talked about the board participation, AI plan, and we needed to find ourselves a lead benefactor. Went down to DC. The CUNA board was wonderfully receptive to hear a story. We told them, some of them didn't know that it's a museum. We filled them in on that. Told them where we've been. They were impressed by that. We told them where we wanted to go. I mean, everybody's attention. Then I asked for $1 million. Still had their attention, although a couple of them I think did fall off their chairs. Told the rest of the story. Unanimously supported. Not necessarily the $1 million up front, because that isn't a lot of money for any organization, but in terms of the concept and what we want to get done. They thanked me for the presentation and said, listen, we're going to work on this. When we worked on this, we were transitioning from one CEO to a new CEO. And it didn't get finalized because, as you can imagine, when you're transitioning at the administrative level, there's a lot of things for them to deal with. They didn't forget about us. They kept us posted online. Bill Hempel, I think is just recently retired, was a liaison with us with the museum board. He did a wonderful job of keeping us posted. Went down to DC again, talked with them again, and they said, yes, we'll do it. And I think that's how much. And they said they committed $1 million. Remarkable. I'm the one who fell off my chair at that point. Because you can ask, and who knows what they're going to say. And I will tell you, our next speaker, Nussle, when he came in, I had a chance to meet with him just the board's planning session, if I'm not mistaken. He was stuck on my table, if I recall. Pulled him aside at the break. I didn't wait for I went past the first break. I went to the second break before I went to the museum and see how that goes. And he'd already been aware of it. The staff had already updated him on that, and he had a lot of enthusiasm on it. And I will tell you, the enthusiasm he showed when I first learned about it has only been enhanced as he goes around the country and helps tell our story. Always, the museum story, but it tells our industry story. So, Jim, come on up and
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mike, and I really feel like I'm representing a lot of people here today. Certainly not just myself, but I'm very proud to be here to witness and participate in the groundbreaking. Mayor, I wanted to let you know that I am a citizen of Manchester as well, Manchester, Iowa, but a Manchesterite nonetheless. So thank you for participating in this. There's so many people who deserve thanks for this kind of a day, and certainly I'm standing on the shoulders of many who contributed and participated so that CUNA could do what it did. But I want to call out a few people, if you don't mind, just from my standpoint. Stephanie Smith, I'll tell you what, you are just a champion. What a leader here. You do such a great job, not only here, but around the country, and champion this. And the first time I came to the museum, Gloria Boussard, she gave me my first tour. And I got to tell you something. There isn't any, if you haven't had a tour from Gloria, you need to get one. She is the best docent, if there is a docent, that this museum has. So thank you, Gloria. I hope I said docent, right? Isn't that the right way to say it? I don't want to offend anybody. And my fellow board members, of course, there's so much passion that sits around that table, scheming, plotting, planning, thinking about how we can make this an even more viable and more interesting and more significant part of the story of credit unions. And so I thank them as well, and Dick and Judy, who couldn't be here, but I know Judy is just as much a part of the partnership and the success that Dick brought to his career. And I feel very lucky that I had 3 years to serve with you as a partner, and I really want to thank you for your leadership and participation in this research library. So congratulations, Dick, as well. Mike Lequier. All right, what an incredible champion for the legacy. I gotta tell you a little bit about this story. He tells it in a very kind of antiseptic sort of way. Put yourself in my shoes, all right? So you're a new CEO and your board is sitting around you and they let you know that they just committed, before you even walked in the room, $1 million to something you almost had never even heard of. I will admit that I wanted to know just a little bit more about the project, but I say that tongue-in-cheek. Mike is and was not only a great champion, but someone who made this project come alive for me and for the CUNA staff. Of all of the leaders that I talked to about this, I think he connected the dots, which you have to be able to do, as to why this is so important. And he definitely was the impetus behind the CUNA board making the commitment of $1 million that they did. And I'm proud to be here representing them, and with my support as well, of course, for instance. And so I say, at some point in time, they always turn to the CEO and they say, what do you think? And certainly you want to please your first board and your first board chair, but after I had a chance to come up here and see it in action and come alive for me, the story does sell itself if you can get somebody in these four walls. It connects the history of the credit union movement to what credit unions are doing today, and it's very clear why the CUNA board jumped at the opportunity to be one of, if not one of the first organizations to commit resources. It's my hope that the addition of the CUNA Research Center and the Ensweiler Library will not only enhance the value of the museum, but enhance the value of the movement, the story of credit unions. And that's an experience that I'm really thrilled to see come to fruition. Every single credit union has a unique story. It's pretty cool, and I get a chance to hear so many of the stories behind them. Oftentimes they're personal stories. They're stories about individual people and the work that they put into creating it. It's certainly true for St. Mary's Bank right here and right below me, right in the office, right below my feet as you think about it. The very first credit union founded and enacted by the legislature in 1908. I have, I believe, a photocopy or an actual copy of the enactment of that first credit union hanging on my office wall, because I think it's so important and significant to know where you came from. From that tiny little office below us right here. And I'm kind of a history buff, so I love to understand the spark that creates whatever it creates historically. Some talk about that spark as the butterfly effect. I don't know if you've ever heard of that that phrase. It's actually it comes from a doctoral thesis by Edward Lorenz back in the 1960s that he presented to the New York Academy of Sciences, in which he theorized that if a butterfly was flapping its wings on one side of the world, the air current, just the small molecules of air that created could, he said, create a hurricane on the other side of the world over time. Just that movement of matter. And I kind of think about that in this context here today. Can you imagine what it was like to be sitting in that little office down there and overhearing or eavesdropping on a conversation between those three great men, and having an opportunity to understand how just a handful of mill worker members here in Manchester have turned now to 112, actually, update, news break, 112 million memberships across the country, and how that tiny little office with, I think what the share amount was $3.50, is that right? Something like that, or a small amount, has now turned into over $1 trillion of assets across the country. Pretty amazing when you think of those currents of air that were created by that credit union butterfly effect. So if you're like me, you kind of get some chills about that. I love going down. I took a selfie in the office, Boven's office down below, because I just think it's so cool to think how something that small and seemingly in the moment, possibly seemingly in the moment, insignificant, has turned into what we all love and respect and understand today. And that history has led to many other things. Certainly Bellwether Credit Union, where Mike has started 90 years ago, and was a small Bell telephone system credit union for those system employees who created the credit union solely for the promotion of thrift among its members. Telephone Credit Union Members of New Hampshire was originally created on Concord Street in Manchester. It was run by volunteers in its early business years, and it was 90 years ago. That Special Breeze created a credit union, a financial cooperative in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. The Focus Credit Union that serves employees of Harley-Davidson. Back then, it was actually the Harley-Davidson Credit Union, and then it merged and was managed with a young go-getter named Dick Ensweiler, and today, of course, we're honoring him. And you never know what that butterfly effect will have on so many others, to allow them to buy their first home, or to get their family out of debt, or attend college, or start a new little business or something like that, and how that changes lives and eventually will in fact change the world. And you can imagine how that butterfly effect that started downstairs was present for the financial first responders, who were the first people back in their credit unions in Houston, or maybe in the Florida Keys, the day after those tragedies and those national disasters hit, when their own homes were flooded. They came in to open the credit union the next day so that they could serve their members and get them back on their feet. There isn't any other place in the world where you see that kind of commitment of people helping people, but you get to see it here. And that's what started at that little butterfly effect downstairs. So we will always be proud of our heritage of people helping people, and that foundation is celebrated in these four walls, and will be celebrated in the new additions that we create here. The Research Center, can and will, I think, have impact immediately. I know of so many that want to come here, that want to do their planning process here, that want to visit the museum, and hopefully next year during the America's Credit Union conference that will be held in Boston, we can get some of those busloads of folks out here to see the museum in action. So yes, today we celebrate our history. No question it needs to be celebrated, and it's another success, I think, in our cooperative system. But get ready for new and exciting places that the credit union wind will blow next, because the sky is the limit, and we are so proud to be part of that history and that future. Thank you very much.
Jim, thanks for your generosity of the organization, your colleagues. Also, thanks for once again pointing out something else. I needed Gloria Bouchard's help on, which was getting CUNAs that get connected to the museum. Gloria, I know she's over here, but she is, if you don't know Gloria, she's the first person I met in the credit union movement when I got my first interview at Telephone Credit Union, New Hampshire back, I think in March of 1998. Before I have Stephanie come up, and I know you, Jim, you tee her up nicely, I'm pretty sure that how you introduced her will be the opening paragraph of her self-evaluation and performance.
You can just email that to me, that'd be great.
And by the way, well deserved. I don't want to speak for the board, but I think maybe I can, and we certainly concur with that. Before I have Stephanie come up, I'd like to say some thank yous to some of our leadership supporters who have joined us this evening. Certainly Jim and the team at CUNA, David and Nick. No, Nick was here. He's here. Okay, I'm sure it's Credit Union. I'm doing this with glasses, guys, so excuse me. This was on a small print. Dick Ensweiler and all of our friends down the Cornerstone League, incredibly supportive, fundraising, friend-raising. The corporate values, our industry values are alive and well in the Cornerstone League. John Murphy in Maine, thank you, John, and the Maine League in Synergy. Ron Covey, St. Mary's, thank you, Ron. Bellwether, thank Gloria, and our friends at Bellwether, appreciate that. Mark Cochran, John Darkmark, thank you so much. Tim Kalia, Northeast, I know Tim is here, thank you, Tim. Morris, I know he's here. Keep an eye on me at all times. Thank you. Appreciate that a lot. Dennis Hebert, Granite State Credit Union, and Bruce Layton, Memphis First Credit Union. If I missed anybody, I know there's a tough thing to do to grab names. Just raise your hand. I'd be glad to dive in the sword and point that out. But I want to thank you all for your generosity. I'm looking at this group, and I'm pretty sure I visited each of you. Had a chance to. You were kind enough to hear the story. Very generous with your time and your treasure. Without that, we wouldn't be doing this here. So, Stephanie, come on up.